Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second last session of our Postgraduate Academy sessions for 2023. This has been a very, very interesting, wonderful, enlightening experience for me, and I'm hoping for you as part of our community. And I cannot believe the year is already over. Before I start getting a little emotional, let me start introducing the second to last session within our block, focusing on drivers to thriving in the postgraduate journey. Today we have our special guest, the Student Support Services team at UKZN, along with Karuna Mahadev, who will be speaking about how to thrive and flourish within this postgraduate journey. I mean, who doesn't want to thrive? Who doesn't want to flourish? So get your notes, get ready, get your coffee, get your tea. We'll be speaking about this very important topic over the next couple of minutes. So just as a reminder, if you are new to the session, these are very informal, very casual sessions. We are very participatory. We enjoy interacting here. And if you'd like to voice your comments, your questions, please raise your hand to do so. Otherwise, feel free to pop a note in the chat box. If you prefer to remain anonymous, by all means, send any of the hosts here a private message, and we'll gladly read your comment anonymously. Welcome to everybody joining on the session, and handing over to the Student Support Services team. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Prof, thank you for having us. Thank you so much, colleagues, for coming through for this session today. It means a lot, and it's really exciting that you would be here to learn more about the concept of flourishing and thriving. My colleague Nandi is here as well. Nandi, do you want to start this off, or should I?
You're welcome to start off the session, Karuna.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, colleagues, a heartfelt welcome, and to Prof, who's tuning in from an entirely different campus. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm hoping that in the next few minutes, if nothing else, that you would have learned about what thriving and flourishing actually means, even if it's one word that describes the two. If your takeaway from that is that you actually able to assess yourself, to monitor your own behavior at work, you are far ahead of many others who are unaware of the concept of thriving and flourishing. With that said, I'll be sharing my screen. So it's a very short presentation, and today we'll be looking at and it's not going to be a textbook definition type of anything from my side. It's just a conversation about whether or not you are able to recognize whether you are flourishing and thriving in your workplace, or even in your personal life as well. So I apologize if I'm going to set my screen up. Yes, okay. So today's agenda, we're looking at workplace engagement, we're looking at thriving, and we're looking at a few ways to improve your motivation and become more engaged. Now, to quote Mihaly, who very, very simply put, now, when we look at the whole theory of engagement, I mean, it's been evolving since 1970s, and yeah, there are many add-ons to it, but basically employee engagement is the state in which people are involved in an activity when nothing else seems to matter. Now, there's also another word for that, which is deeply immersed in your task or in your job. And just out of interest, Gallup had done a study, and it showed that only 6% of the world's population is actually fully engaged. Now, if such a small population of the world is engaged, what does it actually mean? Colleagues, I open up the floor to you, and there's a self-check here with just 5 questions. The first one being, do you find passion, value, and reward in your work? Your options are yes, sometimes, and no. The next one is, do you have good relations with your co-workers, and is this important to you? If your response, I mean, your response should be among yes, sometimes, and no. I ask you to be honest with yourself and really think about this. Think about what's currently happening in your workplace. And yes, I open the floor to conversation with you. How are you responding to this? Are there any takers on this? Any volunteers?
Could I pose a question? Couldn't I?
I beg your pardon?
Do you mind if I
want
ask
some
a
clarity on the
question about
question?
this? Yes.
Yeah.
About this, the self-check. What if the work is new and you're still trying to find the passion and value and reward, or you acknowledge the potential in it, but you're just getting there. How do you self-check that?
Well, I was actually going to ask you to not to answer this one, simply because 3 weeks in this way too early for you, Prof. But excuse me, Prof. You know now what you're chasing. You know, after the end of this session, you would know what to look for, what defines. I mean, I haven't gone into the whole textbook definition, but there are certain drivers that are there or should be in place for somebody to engage with their working environment. There's the whole external environment within which you work, and then of course there's the internal, Prof. Lenine, as well. And the two are kind of merging to find some common ground. And you know, in doing a self-check, or perhaps as setting a goal, that this is it is my intention. So we're working with the end in mind. And if the end goal is I wish to flourish and thrive, and therefore I need to find my passion, I need to have the good relationships at work, I need to be invested like body, mind, and soul in the organization's success, and so on and so forth. So basically, you're setting your goals up against these 5 checkers to ensure that, yes, I will be flourishing and I will be thriving. I don't know if that makes any sense for you.
Perfectly. Thank you so much. I'm excited.
It is exciting, eh? Colleagues, let me see how many in our group today. I can't really see anyone to call them out by name. I think I saw Elliot here. Elliot?
Hello.
Hello, Elliot. How are you?
Fine, thanks. And you?
Fine, thank you, Elliot. Thank you for joining. What are your thoughts on the questions? I mean, have you answered yes for all of them? I beg your pardon? Oops. There seems to be a problem there. Okay, colleagues, in the interest of time, if you have answered sometimes or no to at least one of these, there is a probability that you're not fully engaged, or you will become disengaged at some point if you allow something to fester. So assuming, if we just backflip a little, if we really not feeling in sync with our co-workers, if we're feeling a bit disconnected, if the organization's mission or its vision or whatever is not making sense to you, or even if you're not aware of it, we become disconnected from the organization. And this is not what I'm saying, but what the research is saying. Elliot, you've raised your hand. Yes, please.
Yes, I've said yes to all of them.
Ah, good, great, wonderful. Thank you, Elliot. Thank you. That's good. That's good. Is there anyone who didn't respond yes to everything?
I think there's another hand up.
No, Maswazi?
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to ask.
Yes.
In a case where it's not you who's disengaged, but the company values are what make you disengaged, because not because things are done in an unethical manner, but you just don't gel with those company values.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the company values, the company culture, all of it is so intertwined. Usually we can't separate them, or we can. So I would ask you, in this case, Nomaswazi, what is it that you do? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? And how do you relate to the task at hand? In other words, that which is assigned to you. What is your relationship like with that task? With, devoid of the politics of the organization, because I can guarantee you the reason why only 6% of the world's population are actually engaged, because they are working with people with sound policies and very, very good working culture. And those are the Googles and the Silicon Valleys of the world. And not every company is like that, where you can take a break and go and lie down at work. In real life, I mean, 90% of the world's population doesn't work that way. So it makes sense that only 6% are actually happy, but the rest of us are genuinely not happy with the policies of the organization. But the question then remains is, can you find some joy by relating to the task that you have and defining, in other words, your task identity and defining yourself based on your task? Is that possible for you?
For me, the task itself is not the issue, because I can perform it to my best abilities.
Yes.
But I don't know whether I would say a conflict comes when those same tasks that you are tasked with, because of the company systems, then they become an obstacle for them, because they don't want to conform. So in that way, how do you engage, knowing that the systems that you are putting in place are what will make the company thrive, but the company will not observe those as values that are positive, but they are seeing them as obstacles.
Okay. So there's obviously a clash there in your goal versus the organization's goal. Their goals are different from yours, it seems.
It seems so.
Okay. And it's brave of me to invite this, and probably I would invite Nandi and Sue right in at this point. Is it fair for me to ask you to align your vision with theirs?
In the field that I'm in, it's difficult, because my primary goal is to ensure that there is patient safety. But if that is circumvented in any way, then an aligning with, it's not so much about company values, but I think it would be individual values, because when people are able to not do what is right in pursuit of maybe their personal interests or maybe their personal goals, then it becomes another person's problem. But the values of the company may be ethical, but not the individuals, so to say.
I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. And I'm sorry that you're going through that. And very often the lack of resources in public hospitals, etc., do play itself out as well. And it kind of corrodes at people's enthusiasm to do fully what they need to do. How long before you become the manager of the division?
I don't know, because some people grow, some people just don't feel, they just feel comfortable in the positions they're at. So it's very less likely that you can climb that ladder when the person you're reporting to is very comfortable, whether the the values clash or don't clash.
I hear you. If we aim higher,
I think that is something that I would need to think about.
Okay. Remember, our workshop is about motivating you. If we can't make a change at management level, can I invite you to think director level, where you can actually bring the changes that you want to see, and leave you motivated enough to want to pursue that. Because what it sounds like to me is a lack of enthusiasm to go back and to do these things when you're clashing with the system, which is true for many. But inside that somewhere, we've got to hold a high intent. And I know, I shouldn't be preaching, but this is the only way that the world has reported that they survive it, is by shifting the attention, thinking higher than the problem that's in front of them right now. So your homework for today would be, how can you hold a vision that energizes you in right now? And I think Nadia will be doing something about that as well. So thank you for sharing. Now, Sue, do you wish to say anything?
I just want to make a quick comment. As you were unpacking, I was thinking, you know, the impact that it has on us when we're compromising. Like, I'm just reflecting, like you end up losing a identity that you once held. And then that belief in yourself to be able to do things, because you're starting to compromise, you're starting to not, you know, work that way like you had hoped, and you tend to lose a little part of yourself in this process.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sue, for saying that. And what happens is, when that happens, is that we run the risk of becoming this. So we are engaged at first, we go in with all of these aspirations, with all of these visions, and somewhere along the line, we have the obstacles, and really it is human nature to do this. We start disengaging a little because the system, I remember when I joined UKZN, I had a lot of clashes with the system as well, in terms of budgets and what I wanted to do, my projects versus what they had the money. And so, I mean, you know, when you talk the same talk for 10 years, you kind of become a little disengaged, because you know it's not going to make a difference to anyone. But how do you reinvent yourself inside of the same pool was a big challenge for me. And so I say that, you know, I had become disengaged. And before I reached the point of actively disengaged, I had to pull myself towards myself and re-energize myself elsewhere. So I found something to do outside that gave me the energy to work inside of the job that I had. So actively disengaged are people who are the trouble causers in the organization. For anyone who's attended this workshop in the first semester, I went over this as well. These are the ones that, you know, they really are there with sinister intent. They have no intention of working. They do not care about the organization, and they are there to cause trouble. But you know, become aware of it. Aware of those people who pretend that they're helping you and then sabotage your work, etc. And just take a position. Today is about setting some goals for yourself, although you already know how to do, but make a commitment to where it is you want to be, because that commitment is to yourself and to your own profession that you worked very hard to achieve. Your degree got you here. And nobody's going to take that away from you because they think something else. I hope that you remember that today, that you've worked really hard to come here. Prof, yes, hello.
Hi, I have a question about the actively disengaged. So
yes,
you mentioned that it is up to you to, what did you say, pull yourself towards yourself and maintain motivation and get engaged. But sometimes actively disengaged people have an influence on the extent where you are able to remain engaged as well. How do we manage the surrounding actively disengaged people among our colleagues, among our friends? How do we pep them up to get to the engaged state that we might be in? Or how do we help them find the motivation again?
Prof, sorry, you broke up there for a little, but the question is, how do you manage actively disengaged people? Is that correct?
Yes. You know, how to manage the effect on you and your ability to thrive, but also to try and help them to flourish as well, to get them out of the disengaged state too.
Okay. Okay, then thanks for the question, Prof. There's two levels there. Again, and this comes from, again, I say it's the interlinking of everything is not separable. So what's being said is that if we are immersed in what we're doing, if we are fully engaged with the task we have, if we are creating and expanding our own portfolios, in other words, I have this job and I'm now taking it out in this direction. These are the changes that I'm capable of implementing with nobody bothering me because it feeds into my portfolio. This is, you know, I'm going to set up a little something here on the side to help something else. So basically, I'm expanding my own portfolio without affecting anyone. It's giving me joy. It's also, it's good PR for the organization, and nobody's bothered by it. I am immersed in my job and my role. When having said that, Prof, and this again, I'm not taking ownership of this. This theory belongs to other people. Is when we're immersed in work, we automatically become disengaged from those who are disengaged. So their trouble causing or their menacing behavior is no longer having an impact simply because we have a focus on our own goal. This is why engagement is so important. And task identity, when we identify with what we're doing, when we're passionate about what we're doing, the naysayers don't actually have an impact on us. For somebody who's tried it, you would know that, you know, your colleague brings some nonsense in, they tap on the door and they like, you know, skin it a little and about everything. And once they leave, you go back to what you're doing without it having an impact on you. Nandi, sorry, you wanted to say something? Nandi?
Sorry, I was trying. Yes. No, I was trying to mute myself there. I think my response to Prof. Lenin's question is the follow. It's similar to your response, Karuna. I think it's important to take note that with the disengagement aspect or part of you know, people who are disengaged in a team, it's important to note that they could be disengaged for different reasons. It could be maybe looking into why is this person disengaged? Are they disengaged? Maybe is it like just a personality or characteristics, or is it more of like a career confusion, or are they still in the process of trying to realize their purpose in the organization, or is there just something that's currently taking place in their lives and they are trying to manage that outside of a workspace? So possibly just trying to venture around why, especially if this person is directly going to impact your productivity, like if it's a teamwork. And I think I liked the latter response to that you had mentioned, Karuna, that includes that for you to ensure that engagement, or to try and motivate that engagement from this disengaged person, perhaps delegating work that is aligned with their interest or their skill, you know, trying to help them find that motivation. That could be one aspect in helping them be able to be productive. I'm sure there's other aspects as well, but I think it will always depend on the actual root of why are they disengaged to begin with. I think developing insight to that first will then be able to guide you as to which route to take in order to help them.
Thank you, Nadi. Thank you, Nadi. Yes, regarding that question, just to expand a little. So thank you, Nadi. You're absolutely right. But Prof, usually what happens in an instance like this is that those who are disengaged haven't become this way overnight. Really, it is, like Nadi says, it could be a personality issue. So we're looking at a little bit of maybe antisocial behavior, or maybe a narcissistic personality disorder that is just acting out their frustration in a way. And if it's been noted, usually what happens is we have a sit down with your team member first initially. This is the manager that does this. So anybody who's managing people right now who are disengaged, you'd have a sit with them, you'd have a chat with them, and then you take it to HR. So usually what industrial psychologists do is that they engage in a whole series of job crafting and shifting around, or making slight adjustments to the portfolio to make it more engaging and to make it more, maybe changing its structure a lot, or giving more responsibility. Maybe the job is just boring, or they've just, mundane work sometimes bores people into frustration. Basically, so it's re-energizing and shaking up that dusty portfolio and creating new vibes in it. I don't know if that makes any sense. And hopefully, if you're having that issue with someone in your organization, do include human resources so that the whole portfolio can be just shuffled a little. And that may very well serve them, because it has been known to do that. Sorry, Elliot, you've got your hand raised. Excuse me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elliot.
Yes. What I wanted to say is that in order to try and prevent those who are disengaged and not engaged, and those who are totally disengaged, I think we need to, as leaders, look at our leadership theories, because we understand that the workers may be at different levels of development. There might be those who are still new at the job, and some are at specific levels. So I think we need to, as managers, apply these theories. For example, the autocratic leadership theory, you may apply to those people who are still new at the job, and who need to stick and adhere to the procedures of the organization. And there are those workers who are at the higher level, who have acquired some skills and knowledge, and those you may allow them to start using their own discretion, like using the democratic kind of leadership style. And then there are those you look at you talk to these workers and you counsel them, trying to find out their needs in terms of development, and you identify those needs that would contribute to the organization, and you then develop those so as to be able to transform the organization. I think using the theories of leadership, one can try and by applying those theories, you can try to develop workers and bring about that kind of satisfaction. And You know, I was just thinking in those lines that we also need to, as managers, to think about the theories of management or leadership. Yeah, because we need to use all of those theories, but try and see as to what to which category do we apply a specific theory, you know. And once those who are at the initial level who have just joined, when they grow, then you start giving them some kind of responsibility. Yeah, well, that is what I just wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you so much. You are absolutely 100% correct. And thank you for bringing up the leadership aspect. Because yes, you are absolutely right. And we look forward to having you at the helm. So well said, nicely said. I don't know how I'm doing for time, and I know that Nandi is probably going to strangle me at some point. So colleagues, I said we're not going to get into research, and we're not going to get into research, but just I've taken out literally 2 lines from 35 years of research on positive psychology. And when we thrive, automatically our confidence levels go up. We energize. We want to go to work every day. We don't become avoidant. And thriving is linked not only to your working environment, but in your personal life as well. You come home with enthusiasm. You deal with your children with enthusiasm. It gives you a sense of wholeness and completion that that is essential for your daily functioning and your whole journey in life. So it really isn't only about work. But today, the hope is that you would make a commitment to self and say, look, irrespective of what happens in the world, because we cannot control policy and procedure, we cannot control work culture sometimes. We have a small role to play in it, correct? And we add value to it. We non-conflictual, we take responsibility for our own behavior. But at the end of the day, we are not exclusively responsible for these things when we are employed to work. We also have no control over the country's regulations and rules. So although we have these beautiful human resource, HR, labor law acts and things, how it's being implemented, we have no control over. But the one thing we do have control over is ourselves. Right, and we've said it before, you are in control of the way you're reacting to the rest of the world. Nobody else is. And yes, people can push our buttons, but ultimately what's said, what's done is our responsibility. If I've done something, I must own it and work from there. And so, yeah, that's another thing that I'm hoping we'll do today is take ownership of what we can control. So, colleagues, how would you describe in your words work engagement, and what type of behavior do you think is displayed from somebody who's engaged? Because I think you've learned a lot about engagement now from our conversation. What type of overt behavior will you see that gives you the impression that, geez, this person is really engaged in what they're doing? This is an engaged employee. How can you tell the difference? Any takers? We're thinking. Okay, I will tell you. Probably your thoughts are aligned with the same anyway. So work engagement has 3 drivers, or it's defined by vigor, dedication, and absorption. And what happens is somebody who exhibits vigor is engaged and proactive. So you've got someone like Elliot, for example, who is sitting at his desk, and somebody comes in. They've got something to do with him that's got nothing. They want something that's got nothing to do with his job. It's not a part of his key performance areas. But Elliot wakes up. He jumps up. He offers them a glass of water. He makes them sit down. It's vigor. That's vigor. And it feeds into dedication. Dedication is that commitment that goes beyond the call of duty. In other words, not only what I do, I don't do what I do, but I do things that are in the interest of the organization. And anyone who looks like they can defame the organization or something, I'm going to get very reactive. Like when I work at UKZN, I have my issues with them, but should someone say something negative about UKZN, I used to become very, very defensive, because I did feel that way. And maybe my disgruntlement was just on the surface. But dedication is defending your organization with everything you have because you believe in what they do. And an absorption is immersement in your work and expanding your own portfolio, becoming better at what you do. In other words, skill mastery is what absorption would lead to. Colleagues, today I invite you to think about this, and I know we don't have much time. I wish we did, though. One of the key strategies in reinventing your own purpose and your own growth is to create a vision which fosters a purpose. So I think it was Noma, I asked you about management and directorship, and you said it's something that you need to think about. So it was without judgment, it was just a question, and I hope you're not offended by that. But how can we create visions which really feed back into our life's purpose? This will what will help us develop our confidence and learning ability to learn more. What thought processes need to change in order for us to become this? And what sort of commitment do we have to career progression and lifelong development? So there's an example of a statement, which is a personal statement. And the reason why I'm showing it to you is that I'm hoping that you're going to develop your own. So this person is saying, I enable this business to thrive and grow. I'm deeply connected to and energized by the power of engagement to transform myself. Engagement with reference to self. I am proud and protective ambassador of our community, philosophy, and culture, where personal growth and unique abilities are needed and appreciated. Now, colleagues, you may say, oh, my workplace doesn't appreciate it. But look at the wider community. You also function in an environment outside of work. So how can we write that mission statement to cater for all parts of you and not just one part? If you take a minute to think about it, what do you do? Why do you do what you do? So remember why you started doing what you do. How do you do it? And what is the big goal for your company or for yourself even? What is the big goal for you in general? So basically, you're going to draft a statement. This is your homework for today. On those questions, that what it is you do, why you do what you do, how you do what you do. And a few lines just to re-energize you. You're going to please put it on your wall and do share it with us via email. That will be your personal statement for self. Excuse me. Just a few tips. And this is from research on the books written in positive psychology. People are encouraged that if you're not getting a reward from the people around you, if you're not getting the recognition, if you're not getting what you need in order for you to thrive at work, reward yourself. Start looking at your internal resources to pride yourself on what you do. So what I'm suggesting here is your little accomplishments at work, big, small. Use LinkedIn as a bragging platform. Do brag about yourself because you've achieved these things, and LinkedIn is a legal and ethical way of actually marketing yourself as well. Excuse me. So Facebook is there. You've got other social networks. Reward yourself by recognizing what you have done. Organizing your schedule. We've been speaking about this the entire year, about prioritizing your lists, etc. And it needs work on a weekly basis. It's not something I did last year and I can leave it at that. It really is work in progress. I invite you today to ask yourself about your existing role and how can you challenge yourself to do something different with your job while still being inside of your key performance areas. Looking for external motivation, using the same skills in different organizations. There are scores of non-governmental organizations right here in South Africa, right here in Durban, in Cape Town, wherever. I'm invested in one in Nigeria right now, where we can invest our skills in their daily functions. They're short-staffed. NGOs are very short-staffed because they don't have budgets. They could use your program management skills, any kind of operation management skills that you have. And if you can invest 2 hours a week, re-energize yourself by giving those skills away. And what skills do you have that can benefit others, that others could benefit from? You could be a teacher, a tutor. But the whole purpose today is to get you thinking about what's going to re-energize your skills. In other words, you're feeding energy back into those forgotten skills that are not being used by the organization right now. Maximize yourself outside even. And with that said, I'm sorry, I'm not giving a chance for dialogue much here, because I know Nandi wants to kick off with hers. So thank you very much for your listening ear. I hand over to you, Nandi. Excuse me.
Thank you, Karuna. Okay, I'm trying to share. Not sure if you can see my screen. Okay, I think you can.
We good? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So I think in light of your implied words in your second to last slide, indeed, thriving and flourishing is really all about mostly about self-discipline. What can you control? It's all about looking within the reach of what are you capable of doing? How are you able to manage your own self in the organization? And yes, I do acknowledge the implication or the impacts that the system may have on us often. But we really invite you all to take away with you what are some of the tools and how can you pour into yourself so that you can continue to thrive as an individual within your role, your work role, or your role as a student. Because remember, behind every work role or behind you as being a supervisee, there's a purpose to be fulfilled. You are fulfilling your long-term goals. You are fulfilling your everything that you've ever once could only imagine in your mind, and now you are trying to work towards it. You are implementing it. So the art of really just continuing to stay in the course and continue to pour into your role as a professional. It's really to look into what are you capable of doing? What can you do? And we are about to, and how else can you do that? By really assessing yourself and seeing how can you go forward. And I know that we've come to the part of the year where, amongst many things, many of us are again faced with trying to reflect and review our progress for that, and trying to see what are the new year goals, what are you planning to accomplish next year, so that you can continue see yourself flourishing, see yourself progressing and growing in your positions. So I hope that with this session it will help you visualize, and I'm sure that you've already began to visualize your own goals. I hope that it will add as a catalyst in helping you put a much more clearer picture on what is it that you'd like to do, or how would you structure your goals for next year. So when I think of the term thriving and flourishing, the theory called positive psychology approach that was established by Martin Seligman comes into mind, because through this theory, he suggests that for an individual or a student to achieve success or overall growth, they should learn to gain insight and focus on their strengths more than their weaknesses, even in the midst of challenges. So essentially, positive psychology implies that what's most important in thriving is the effort one makes in learning to adapt. So, so that they are able to be persistently engaging intellectually and socially. And with such qualities such as development of time management, optimism, appreciation of difference in other people, and engagement becomes the result of such practice. So to put the practice, or to put that into practice as just as a little exercise, to give you a head start, or try and meet you halfway as you are continuing to be in that process of visualizing yourselves for the next following year or in the next 2 years. I want you to, there's this little exercise that I want you to do. I would like for you to, either you can close your eyes or you can just sit in a comfortable position. And I want you to think of this, right? I think Sue is going to help us where you're going to be able to respond. Give me your responses. I want you to try and visualize yourself as you are planning to graduate, you are planning to work on your research. I want you to try and visualize yourself walking across that stage, and you are finally completing your degree, right? And you're either wearing your black gown or your red gown, and your family's there, they clapping, and your friends, everyone, your partners. And I want you to think back to what did it take for you to finally get to that stage? And when you're thinking of these responses, I want you to think of them in terms of how were you able to manage your time, and also from the self-discipline or management perspective. So you're welcome to give me the responses. You're welcome to give me the responses now. I see Sue has actually set it up. There's a code also. What do you think it would take for you to finally walk across that stage? Time management wise and self-discipline wise.
So while you're wanting to contribute, you may use the direct link that's in the chat space, or you may go to menti.com and you can use the code 22861317 and share with us your response.
I'll give you a few minutes to respond. Anyone, what would it take? What do you think it would have taken you to finally walk across that stage? What did you have to do to try and manage your time? And what did you have to do to try and apply discipline, mindset, okay? Anyone else? Anyone else would like to respond? Or what advice would you give a friend? Oh, I see. We have a lot of responses now. Mindset, devote more time, locum less, use Pomodoro. Okay, wonderful. So also study method. I think it matters. Devoting more time to your work, locum less, prioritizing, ask for help. Okay. And also in the chat box, we have Elliot who's saying, I will have to sacrifice less important commitments. Thank you. Discipline. Okay. We still have more responses, I think. Okay. I think that's fine. Are they still able to respond, Sue, as we continue with the session? Will they still be able to
Keep it
respond?
active.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, no, it's fine. Can I share? Can I continue sharing? I see there's also one more response. Please. Oh, okay. No, that's Suzanne. Okay. Yes. So thank you very much for your responses. And I absolutely do agree with all of you. Absolutely. In order for you to finally see yourself walking across the stage, you will, as a way of you continuing to be productive, to find yourself thriving and flourishing academically and career-wise as well, but mostly academically. When looking at the scenario that I gave you, you will need some form of discipline. You will need a way of studying, a certain study method that you will use, and that will help you become more productive. Look for support. Absolutely. I think it's very, very important looking for a support system, because as an individual, I don't want to say as a student only, we really get into different seasons in our lives. Some seasons you'd find that you have some financial struggles that would require you to have some form of financial support, and at times maybe it's just you have going through your own personal emotional or relationship problems. You will definitely need some form of support, because we all know by now that all external it doesn't have to be just academic challenges that would take you off the goal, but it can be anything at all that is external or surrounding you that could influence how you're able to perform academically. So with me here, I have just a few points that I would also like to add on if we're unpacking, time management. How can one be able to develop in time management and also in self-discipline? And I do know for sure that you already know of such. But there's never harm in having a refresher. And I hope that you also have your own input in case you are experiencing maybe some challenges with any of the points that I'll put up. I hope that you'll be able to resonate with some. So the first point, when it comes to time management, really time management, it becomes a very important aspect of thriving and flourishing, I would say, because if you think about it, you can be able to know the content of the work that you're doing, or have a network support system. But if you don't have the time, then if you don't have the time to work on your research, or you don't have the time to, or you don't make time to go for laboratory experiments, or maybe let's say you're experiencing some form of stress, time can somehow be affected, or you are unable to balance out your life. It all really boils down to how are you able to balance out your life. So the first point is just know how you're spending your time. That's the first point. Know how you get to spend your time, set boundaries around it, and be very consistent with how you're able to work around the time that you give yourself, whether it's the routine that you've created. And then stick to your daily schedule. Prioritize. I think we already had prioritizing in the word cloud. Definitely prioritizing becomes important. Knowing what's most important, what's important, but also it can wait, and also what's not so important at all is very, very important, because it's easy to do things that are unnecessary when the most important things that are connected towards you progressing further. It's very easy to lose yourself in those. And then fourth point is tackle the most difficult tasks first. Well, I know that for some people that say for them it's actually two ways. They would either prefer they would actually probably prefer not like dealing with the easier task first, so that they will gain momentum and motivation, so that by the time they get to the difficult part, at least they've gained some confidence. And for some, maybe this might be their solution. And then batch process similar tasks. I think it's also for the same reason, so that one could be able to gain momentum and confidence in whatever that they are doing. And also setting reasonable time limits, right? Not spending too much time working on something, because it might impact how much time you get to spend on another. And I know that this too is not so as simply, it's not so simply, it can't not be simply done as easier as it's said, because I'm considering that with the postgraduate group, most of you have already, you're not only students or even workers, you have your own families and multiple other projects that you may be doing. So it could be very well difficult to maintain this, but just trying to, I think it's all about just trying to develop that way of managing yourself. And if you find yourself falling back, trying to get back again over and over again. And it's, I think that's what's most helpful, as opposed to just surrendering yourself, because there is no way that you can be able to manage or set the reasonable time. And learn when to say no, which I think it speaks into the above statement. And with the last point, because of managing many projects, I would suggest that perhaps learning when to delegate, what to delegate, especially if you're working with team, with a group of people, then just knowing when to delegate, what's important, what can you do yourself, and what is it that you can actually give to the next person. And just as an extended way of having a more visualized way of how you can be able to prioritize your items that you need to do on a daily basis. I have it's a template called from Eisenhower Matrix. Well, here it actually suggests that developing or dividing your tasks into 4 segments, from what is it that you urgently need to do, and then the second segment is what is it that is critical but it's not so urgent, and then the third segment is what is it that you can be able to delegate. So yes, you have to do it, but you don't necessarily have to do it yourself. You can give it to another person. So therefore it's not that much of a priority. It's important, but it doesn't have to be a priority to you at that moment, because there's other important things that you need to do. And then the last one is what is it that you just have to consider doing at a much later stage. So that is how you can manage your time, and I think which speaks into self-management or self-discipline. Then lastly, as an extended way or tips that you could take from this segment when it comes to continuing to develop or to develop self-discipline, is these few tips that I have here. The first one, it suggests that you'd have to eliminate distraction as much as you can. Try and eliminate distraction. And if you feel that maybe it's not really distractful, you wouldn't really consider something as distracting, but rather as it's just something that you enjoy doing, but it does interfere with your time that you would have delegated to do your work, then considering to balance out your life, maybe suggesting that you work for a few days or a few hours, and then during certain time, maybe it's weekends or so, just an example, weekends or so, you're going out with family on holidays, or other things that wouldn't necessarily speak into research or work. And also it's important to know your inclination, know what is it that you're most, what is it that you'd find yourself most likely doing, that I think this speaks into the first point, that might end up maybe being a distraction to you, or what is it that you're doing that might actually be able to help you progress further. So just knowing having insight to having insight to your what could help you progress further, and what could also delay you further. It's important, and try to exercise whatever that you've discovered that could add on to you progressing further, or build in onto your strength. I don't know. I wish I could have an example for this. Maybe my colleagues, would you like to add on something to the statement that I've mentioned, or does anyone have any example or on the statement that I just made, or the second tip that I just gave?
So I'm just quickly mentioning that I am mindful of time. We've gone 9 minutes over, and I think that it's really an interesting concept, and I love how you're unpacking, the time management, the self-discipline, and all these strategies. I just want to quickly mention that we received a few more techniques, and it spoke to what you just said. Someone said, say no politely, to flourish more, and then to be kind to self. I thought it would just be apt to mention that, but I think someone did unmute to respond to your question as we work towards the end.
Yes, I'm also very mindful of time. I'm really sorry. I think I will probably have to wrap up soon. Was there anyone who wanted to respond though?
I thought I heard a voice, but it doesn't seem like it now.
Okay, all right. But at least we do have the recording, and I'm certain that this slide is also going to show in the recording. So in case, as there's other points that I did not speak into, you are most welcome to watch the video, and I think they are more self-explanatory. I don't have to speak into them much. Like the third one is reward yourself after studying, have planned goals and strategies, use technology, advance yourself in technology, because it really does make life easier. There's so many strategies or things that could be able to help just by just by being well advanced in technical skills. So that could help save time and help you be able to better manage yourself, which I think helps with you thriving and growing, and then making better decisions in advance and creating a routine. I think I'll have to end off there. Thank you very much for joining our session. As Karuna and we were unpacking thriving and flourishing from a career perspective, as well as looking into an academic perspective. And like Karuna had mentioned earlier, if there's anything at all that you take in this session, it really is to take how do you assess yourself moving forward? How do you evaluate your progress and pick which goals do you need? How can you be able to evaluate your own strengths and weaknesses so that you can be able to thrive and flourish further? Thank you. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you so much, Nandi and Karuna. Yes, absolutely. So as Prof. Lenine had mentioned, this is the penultimate session. We will send through more information on our final session. scheduled for next week, do take a moment to complete the evaluation form. And absolutely, thank you much. Thanks for such an informative presentation. Completely agree. We shall see you same place for one last time next week. Have a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.